What's up, my fellow Dreamfasters? It's Danny Gallows, of course, who'd you think it was, and welcome to my long-awaited review of the Netflix live adaptation of Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, guys, so I just literally got done watching the last episode this morning, actually, and, I've been wanting to review this show for a while ever since I heard about it, because, any of you guys out there who know me well, which is, probably only a handful of you, to be honest, know that I'm quite the purist about a lot of things, and I was not looking forward to this at all. I was never looking forward to this. I don't think that Cowboy Bebop is a property that needs a live-action adaptation. I think that the anime is legendary by itself, and we need to stop making these live action remakes of things that nobody is asking for. But at the same time, I was interested to see it because it's not Cowboy Bebop. It's another version of it, right? It's a live adaptation of it. It's a different version of the show. And I have to admit that even though, being the purist that I am, there was a part of me that was very curious to see, what is this show actually about? What did they do? So, as many of you out there already know, I am a massive, massive Cowboy Bebop fan. I mean, hello? Hello? This show was a huge part of my formative adult teenage years, meaning from like 17 to 19, right? Those years before you really step into the real world. And just a brief history for you guys about my history with Cowboy Bebop. Back in the early 2000s, Adult Swim used to show Cowboy Bebop all the time, among many other great shows. But I remember specifically one night, I was staying up late, I was restless, I was tired. They said that Cowboy Bebop was coming on next, and I was like, oh, this looks like a cool show, I've heard about it, but I've never seen it before, maybe I'll stay up late to watch it. And it just so happens that they were playing the very first episode and the second episode back to back, and I will never forget my experience watching that show. I mean, seriously, after the second episode ended, I just sat there and stared at the television screen and wanted so desperately for it to come back. And so then the very next day, I went out to the mall and I bought myself the box set and I watched it, and it just changed my life. And, things like Final Fantasy X and Cowboy Bebop specifically is what really cemented my love for Japanese culture, because Cowboy Bebop was the very first anime that I ever saw, right? That show was my springboard into anime. And it was really after I saw episodes like Ballad of Fallen Angels and Jupiter Jazz Part 1 and 2 that I really began to understand why anime is such an accepted storytelling medium. Right? It is so beautiful and so powerful, and you don't need live action to tell stories like that. Cowboy Bebop made me understand that, right? That you don't need live action. You can just do it in anime and do it so wonderfully, right? And that brings me to my next point. Look, you may really like this show. You may come out of seeing this show being like, you know what, that wasn't so bad. Or maybe if you're not a fan of the original series at all, you may think it's something fresh and inviting and, edgy or whatever. And that's fine. You do you. If you like the show, that's great. But for original fans like myself and so many others out there, we understand that this didn't need a live-action remake. Like most things out there today, this doesn't need a live-action remake. It's not as if Netflix is rewarding us with something, being like, oh my gosh, finally guys, after all these years, you finally get to see a live-action Cowboy Bebop. Well, no. Nobody asked for that, nobody wanted it, because we accept it as an anime. It's not as if the makers of the show couldn't do it as live action so they made it as an anime. It was made as an anime because that's the way they wanted to tell it. That was the medium that it was supposed to be in. In animation, there are just certain qualities that you can't capture live action, right? Because when you're doing things as animation, you can design it however you want to. You can have those cartoon mannerisms and affects and reactions and everything. And in live action, whenever you're doing something live action, especially when it's adapted from an anime, you just can't do that. You can't have that same feel or that same tone. I mean, like, for instance, like John Cho. John Cho is awesome, right? But he's not playing Spike in this show. John Cho is playing himself, dressed in a Spike costume. And he's just acting like himself, and it just doesn't work. And unfortunately, that goes for literally every single cast member in this show. I mean, this entire show was completely miscast. Faye is another perfect example here. I mean, Faye Valentine is one of my favorite female anime characters ever in history. Quite possibly, I think, the favorite. Actually, I think she probably is number one, like, now that I think about it more. I think she is my number one favorite female anime character ever. And that's for a reason. It's because Faye is fierce and strong and independent, and she has class and grace and elegance and maturity, right? But in this adaptation, she just comes off as like some like 15-year-old, immature girl who's always making snarky remarks, and it doesn't feel right. The tone of every character is completely off. The tone of every character is completely missing or has been reshaped or reformed in some way that doesn't fit the original tone of the show. And again, I know this is a new Cowboy Bebop, but you also have to, if this really is a love letter to the original fans, it's a crappy letter, man. Simply put, this is just not a show for the original fans, right? This is a Cowboy Bebop for the general audience, right? If you're just part of, that group of people that doesn't, isn't too familiar with the original show and is going into this completely blind, you'll probably like it. And if you do, hey, that's great, like, it's a new Cowboy Bebop, do your thing. But for original fans, this is just a very weird mashup of messy ideas from the original show that is very off-putting and completely toneless. So, it's a hard pass for me. So, in conclusion, I'm going to give Cowboy Bebop an overall score of... No, but you know what? I'm not even going to score it. Just stay away. Alright, my friends, well, that's enough blathering from yours truly for right now. So, now it comes the best part of the video where you guys get to voice all of your opinions, thoughts, and ideas. Leave them all down below in the great white void. Do you guys feel the same way I do about this show, or do you have a completely different opinion, and why? Let me know why you hated or loved this show, or maybe you're somewhere in between. I don't know. That's what the comment section is for. It's all about you guys. So go ahead, leave all your thoughts and opinions down below, and I'll see you guys back here for the next movie review, show review, skit, rant, whatever it may be, very soon. Peace.